In this corner, you know what I was doing like a thing.
Oh, like
in this corner, coming in at.
I forget his name.
His name.
So we can't say that phrase because he's trademarked that phrase.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no one can say it. I mean, you can say it, but if you say it the way he says it,
well, I'm not saying it exactly like he said it.
You're going to be ready to rumble in the court of law.
That's
right. That's right.
Is that a real thing?
It's a real thing?
No way.
Yeah, he's very famous for it.
Okay, well, we'll put that in as like a funny thing, and it's a parody. It's a parody.
I don't want any legal trouble with that guy.
In today's episode, we are talking about all things storyboards. What they are, how they work in productions, and how to give good feedback when reviewing them. Very important. And we'll probably go into some spicy common problems. Spicy that we tend to see in the stage. So stay tuned. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
Not great. We can't. I don't want to get sued by Great Clips.
Let's just go. So let's just jump right in. So in this production episode, we're going to make a few assumptions here. Mm-hmm. It's very important that you understand what these assumptions are. So one, we're gonna assume that you've been through these top 3 stages, these stages that come before this production stage. The ideation stage is what we call it, the ideation sort of block of time. You've generated ideas, feelings, tones. You have aligned all those with your target audience. You already know who you're going to talk to. Mm-hmm. You've completed your script. That's another big stage. Yeah. It's an AV script format. And we're assuming that you've separated it out by shot number. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hopefully you're using our template. If you don't remember, our template is on the free resources at our website, openpixelstudios.com/AVscript.
There you go. Plug.
You have visual directions written out.
Sure.
In that AV script for each shot. And you've completed the concept stage, which we just did an episode about a little last week, 2 weeks ago maybe.
Yeah.
And you've created a visual guide, or at least have options that you've selected, right? You've gone through that. And now you're ready to review your storyboards.
Right. So if you haven't done any of those just yet, you might want to go back and listen to the many episodes that we have.
Shut this podcast down right now. And
you turn this car around.
Turn it around and go back and
listen to the other episodes. But the only reason is that it might be more informative to understand the whole workflow from like through the thread as opposed to just jumping into one.
Right.
But you might have experience already. Yeah. So and as a quick additional note here, you can really make storyboards for any type of video production, right? Live action or animation, feature film or TV.
Yep.
But for this, we're assuming that you're making animated storytelling videos with a marketing or communication angle, right? Which is really more aiming to like sell or educate, and it can also entertain in different ways.
In an entertaining way.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get to the meat of our topics.
Mm-hmm. Oh, excuse me. The plant-based meat.
Oh,
thank you.
Sure.
Let's.
All right.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Thank
you.
If
you want to go beyond meat.
Oh no. Sure. Right. That's fair. I'm slowly working my way towards becoming vegan or vegetarian, at least.
Vegan? So. I think it's vegan.
I don't think anybody says it that way. It won't take off.
All right.
But
so let's start with the basics. What exactly is a storyboard?
Great question.
Great question. So the easiest comparison to think of is a comic book version of your animation. And in comic books, it's a sequence of panels. If you're a marketer, you can think of it as slides in a slide deck that outline the key moments of your story. So it depicts the actions of each scene through the camera angles that a creative director has already selected, and typically includes some sort of mechanism of synchronization to figure out what you'll hear, what you'll see, and what will happen in the entire shot, right? So that's kind of what it is. Each panel in this storyboard represents a crucial moment in the story. So it captures the composition, the character, if you're dealing with characters, and other important visual details that really need to be shown, right?
Yeah.
So by organizing these panels in a sequence,
Mm-hmm.
you create a visual narrative that unfolds, allowing you to envision the final animation without any motion done.
Yes.
That is key. You don't want to pour so much effort into motion. Animating takes a long time. Just saying, it takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to put that effort in until it's ready to go.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Right. And you're looking at it through the lens of like what your audience member is going to see.
Yeah.
Right. Not necessarily what you're seeing. So one thing to note here is that the AV script, right? The thing that you're writing all this story
Stuff
ideas down.
on,
Yeah. It serves as like your story roadmap overall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when you shift into these storyboards, they're really serving as a visual roadmap for everyone who needs to sign off on the project and the overall direction for the animation. So think of it as a guide, right?
Mm-hmm.
It bridges the vision gap that sometimes many CEOs or CMOs or product marketers may face when they're asking themselves, like, what does the story look like?
Yeah, what's this going to look like?
When they're reading the script, right? They're at the script phase and they're saying, what is this? What am I seeing?
Yeah, what am I looking at?
There's sometimes a gap there. So the storyboard is a great place to figure out what it actually looks like.
Right.
And so they're not only essential for animators, but they're really essential for the entire production team as a whole.
Yeah.
They provide a common language for everyone that's involved, ensuring a shared understanding of the story, visuals, and overall direction, right? So it's kind of like having a visual translator that bridges that gap between your imagination and the finished product as a whole. Yeah.
Right. I think I started taking that class on Duolingo for storyboards.
Oh.
Because I speak that language now.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It's really hard.
How far have you gotten?
I got a couple stars.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm on my 30-day streak.
Oh, nice.
So
Congrats.
I'm getting up there, but there's some challengers.
Mm-hmm.
I've only done Duolingo really for like 2 months. They've changed so much.
They have changed a lot.
Also,
I'm like 400 days
new
in.
animated show by Duolingo is coming out.
That's an interesting like analysis of like how animation has evolved with Duolingo over the years. So we have to do an episode about that one day.
We might. It's not really that whole.
Exploring different brands and how they've taken animations.
That's what it is.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, but we're going to sidetrack like always. So why don't we explore the role of the storyboard during the production stage?
Yeah.
So what's happening?
So a creative director looks at an AV script and they identify how to best represent each shot. So during that production stage, the storyboard acts as a reference point for making really crucial decisions. And it helps us assess the flow of the story, right? It opens up discussions around visual coherence or, things that are working together, not working together. You're trying to figure it out. And whether or not the script is actually working in the way you intended it. So it's all kind of tied together in this one little package. And once we have our first storyboard, now it becomes the centerpiece of the collaboration.
Yeah.
It's the foundation upon which your masterpiece will be built.
Beautiful. It's a masterpiece.
So what happens when the client gets a storyboard?
Sure. So when you as a client, you get the storyboard, when you review and you're analyzing each panel or frame or page, as we sometimes call them.
Any one of those.
Yeah, any one of them. You can identify areas for improvement, refine character actions, and fine-tune any of those narrative beats, changing colors, adding or subtracting visuals as needed, whatever makes the most sense for the story. It also serves as a primary communication tool during reviews, right? As you provide feedback, you can reference specific panels, you can highlight what works, and suggest adjustments where needed. So the storyboard here is really meant to be more of a facilitator of clear and effective communication, ensuring that vision is understood and translated into the animation seamlessly.
You know what it's like? As I heard you speaking, it's like a contract. When you go and get a contract from someone,
sure,
all parties need to agree that this is the right thing. Right. And it's drafted up by a lawyer or something.
And what happens when you don't read the contract?
Correct.
Fully.
Right. In perpetuity. And like now, Chippendales is totally toast. Anyway.
Oh, that was a great show.
Great show.
Okay.
Great show.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the idea here is that it's not necessarily binding. It's you can change it.
Right.
But it's something to look at and negotiate over. And I think that's the important part.
Yeah. It's meant to be a place for negotiation in a way,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. So.
Or you know what? Don't.
Just sign it and see what happens.
Just don't.
Sign off and...
do whatever you want. I don't care.
I'm so glad. Yeah, empower people to think for themselves.
Do what's best for you.
So all of that is to really say that you should embrace the power of the storyboard stage, right? It's the blueprint that transforms your simple marketing idea into that captivating and memorable animated story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being that storyboard is so crucial to the success of the project, right? We thought it would be helpful to really provide some guidance here about how to give feedback at this particular stage.
Yeah, because it is a pretty big stage to give feedback on. So once you've looked through your first set of boards, obviously we can't tell you what to say.
Right.
It's just, right. It'll
That's
be
not
very
how it works,
specific to the situation, what you're looking at, but we can provide guidance when giving feedback on the boards as a whole. So we're basically assuming that you always want to provide constructive feedback, right? This is basically the same for all reviews. You
at
want
every
to be
stage,
constructive. You don't want to be destructive. You don't want to be restrictive either. So you want to just keep that in mind. So just basic things. So let's go down the list. What are some tips that you can possibly give our listeners?
Sure. We can give some tips and tricks and
tippies and
yeah, I don't think it's going to catch on.
I don't know. It's the hottie Bugatti.
First and foremost, the first thing you want to do is really be specific, right? So instead of saying what we like, even I've said this in the past.
I don't like this.
Yeah, like, oh, I don't really like that, right?
That's something I like.
If you're saying something like, I don't really like this part, what you can do instead is provide detailed explanations of what isn't working and why it's not working that way, right? You can point out specific frames or pages or panels or actions in a scene or visuals that need improvement and articulate your reasoning behind your suggested changes, right? And you can think about this of like at a place like Pixar, right? They've been around for a number of years. They've made a lot of stories.
We like to think that they're pretty good.
We like to think so, yeah. They're pretty, I love the people there.
They've got the elements.
Nice.
Boom.
Nice, relevant topic that's not going to age later, like years later. So they have a strategy around critiques in general, right, through a lot of their work. And it typically goes something like this. It will say, they'll ask questions like, what did you like or love about that particular piece? And another question might be, what's confusing about what you actually saw there, right? What's a part you didn't necessarily understand? And what suggestions, if any, do you have for improvement, right? None of those are coming out in sort of an attacking or blaming or, like...
You're also giving a space for the person who created the work, to be appreciated. Yeah. I think that's sort of the first, what did you like or love? Show me some appreciation. And then the confusing part is like clearly, and that's a bad word. I mean, it's a fitting word, but you want to make everything clear. You want to make everything as clear as possible. Yeah. Especially in animation. So, right. So the second tip here is to remember that you want to focus on the story and the intended message. So you want to frame your feedback in terms of how it aligns with your marketing goals and the emotions you want to invoke. So it's not about how you feel, it's about the goals that your marketing has, right? So this way you can guide the animators to fine-tune visual storytelling elements to achieve that, whatever that desired impact is.
Yeah, all important things.
Yeah.
All right, third one. We're jumping right in. If you are having trouble providing guidance, which is okay, that happens.
Totally fine.
Instead, you can provide examples or references to help illustrate your feedback overall.
Always a good idea.
Always a good idea. We love when that happens. So whether that's referencing a particular scene from a movie that you've watched in the past, or sharing visual inspiration that you gathered from somewhere. References can really assist in conveying your vision and setting the expectations, even if they're drawn in something like MS Paint or something.
Love MS Paint. Got it. I still use it.
We've called it back. You opened it today.
I opened it just today.
Opened it today.
To point some stuff out.
I was shocked.
It's the quickest, fastest, and like pixel driven thing that you could do. Like just, I need a couple pixels in this area. That's it. Yeah.
Side note, if you decide on your own to draw the thing that you need to see as reference, that would be awesome. I would love that.
Do it up.
Yeah. We'll play
Explore
a little Pictionary.
That creativity
It'll be fun.
From your youth.
Yeah. No, even from today. Channel it. All the time. Yes, you have the creativity.
All right. Lastly, if you have a background in design or graphic design or anything like that, you have a leg up in reviewing these things. So utilize that knowledge. Analyze the color, maybe the lighting, the composition, the typography. So these elements significantly impact the mood and the tone of your pieces. So keep that in mind. Consider whether they align with your brand identity. And the emotions you want to evoke in your audience. Sure. So do that.
I want to acknowledge in this moment that we have a thing in our notes here that says insert joke here.
Yeah, that's what I came across that and didn't know what to say.
I see.
That's why I said just do that. That's the joke.
I see. Sometimes you don't have a joke and that's okay.
Sometimes it's not funny.
No.
Sometimes it's very serious and you need to do it.
We are switching the tone up real fast right now.
You need to do this right now.
All right. So we've talked about what a storyboard is and how it should be used in productions, right?
Yeah.
But what we know from experience is that this isn't always smooth sailing, right?
Yeah,
and
that's true.
So can we spend some time here pinpointing some areas of like rough waters that perhaps our sailboats should avoid, when navigating the seas of the storyboard?
The storyboard feedback be blowing winds in the production schedule, you mean? That's my pirate voice.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
That's not bad. I
could be a voiceover actor.
I was a temporary pirate in a voiceover.
Oh. What?
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. I provided scratch audio for a video game character that was a pirate.
Nice.
And
what's the character? Can you say?
It was for Toys for Bob when I was working on the Skylanders games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So to bring that back, I guess I'll say something like, "Arr, the storyboard feedback be blowing winds," just like you did.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. It was.
That's okay.
I lost my voice, I think, in the first 20 minutes. It is pretty All right, Captain, we need to brace ourselves for how bad these jokes are today. Go ahead. I am the captain now.
You are the captain.
So we're going to talk to you a little bit about some of the common production issues that tend to happen within the animation production so that you're aware of them and you have a better sense of how to navigate those waters without being a pirate. So the first is that the final decision makers and stakeholders aren't involved early enough to give sign off when they're supposed to.
Yeah.
This is a big problem that
it happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
We
talked about it
today.
We talked about it today. A lot of these things happen. So what tends to happen is that a lot of the direction that needs to have sign off and needs to have the right eyes on it technically doesn't get seen. And the people who need to see it are usually the CEO, the CMO, the brand director, a key board manager, any of the stakeholders that you identify in that moment. You need to have that person in the room or on the Zoom call or, in an email thread to give direction to the entire creative team. It's
a board member, you nailed it. CMO, CFO, sometimes a CFO.
Yeah.
This is a financial thing.
Lead,
Legal is a
big one. Yes.
Yeah.
So we're saying to do this at the storyboard stage. It's really critical. Even if you think that they might not get it at first, right?
We do hear that a lot. They're not going to understand what
they're not going to understand what they're looking at because they don't see it in motion or something like that. if that happens, then that's an opportunity to let the creative team explain what is happening. And they can walk them through the process. They can say, this is how the motion will look. This is what's going to happen. But you really want to get their sign off on, is the story working overall?
Honestly, with a 30 to 1 minute video, it takes maybe 15 minutes of their time to just walk through what's going to happen.
To make sure everyone's on the same page.
It just is such a simple meeting to have.
And so, because what ends up happening here is that we go into an animation, right? Let's say we don't get the sign off and we deliver what we think is a final version, right? We've already gone through revisions with the internal team and with the marketers. And then we find out that the CMO or the CEO isn't happy with the story.
We don't like the story,
right?
Let's just change it.
At the script stage. It's really, and so there's only a few days left in the production schedule. What are we going to do? We're going to have to shift. We're going to have to pivot. We're going to have to cut. Like, it gets a little crazy. And so that's just
I mean, it might not be, it depends on style and what you're talking about, but it might not even be doable in the time.
Right, exactly. And so there's just better ways to plan this out. And that way, like, everybody is happy with the final result. They already know what to expect before you even go into animation. And the artists are happy too. Because they're keeping on schedule. So that's a big production challenge that has solutions. Yes.
So second tip here, things to avoid or common problems. The visual gap is hard to close because many storyboards are represented in rough sketch form.
That's true.
That doesn't happen on our side, but things either look like stick figure drawings or a bunch of clip art sort of mashed together. As artists, we totally get it. It's a cost-saving measure to save time, right? But this one really is on us as creative professionals. Your concept phase should depict the style, but in many cases, we should carry that style through to the storyboards. This is how we do it internally here, and how we find it's the best approach to close, again, that visual gap. It's an imagination gap for people when they're trying to figure it out.
And we understand. So we understand why we would do rough drawings, and it's not to say we haven't done them in the past. We have done them in very specific situations, but at least in terms of the type of work that we do most often, it makes sense to just follow the boards all the way through to the final style.
So we present final frames so that there's no confusion on what will be seen on the screen. There are some exceptions. Characters are a big exception. But for the most part, we present final frames. You take all the visual all the way through the pipeline, all the way through the workflow, and we get to figure out any kinks in that workflow before we get to full motion. So so that's just something to note.
So why do we do that?
Well, we do this because some clients will say, well, we really don't know what this will look like. We can't really imagine what it will be. And
when they're looking at a rough sketch.
And so that takes up a bunch of time in the production schedule to figure out, okay, how can we walk this person through to the end? It's just you're saving yourself time.
Right.
And creatives on the other side are saying, well, it takes additional work to create those final elements, right? And so we don't want to sort of spend or, quote, waste that time that is going to go in the wrong direction. So that's why the concept phase is so important right before this phase. So concept, we've given it the visual direction. Now in the storyboard, we're seeing that visual direction all the way through the entire project.
Right.
So that just hits a different note in their minds. So if you build these frames that you present non-destructively, then making changes to your frames becomes a whole lot easier.
I don't know what you mean by non-destructively, but I guess what is that, or what other things are non-destructive in your life? I'm segueing to a different question.
I'm not going to answer that. Non-destructive. So non-destructive means that everything has an undo that's built in. You can think about it that way.
Okay.
So if you're building sort of layers on top of the artwork, every layer is undoable back to the original thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
There you go. The more you know.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't.
That's pretty good. Do you want to move on?
Maybe. Maybe. I might want to stick with the more I know. Okay, number 3. We're getting there. So another common production issue that happens that can be avoidable is that sometimes you're getting a storyboard and you're seeing what happens and you're saying, oh, I want to make a change to the dialogue, right? I want to change the script out in this particular moment in time. And it's very easy to get lost in those words, to be like, okay, I'm going to take this sentence and I'm going to rewrite it. Now that I'm seeing the visuals, I kind of want to say it a little bit differently so that the message resonates more clearly, which makes sense. But it is a place where if you're not taking into account the length of the word count in that moment in time, you might be saying, oh, I want to rewrite this entirely and I'm going to add a paragraph of text.
Right.
Now all of a sudden that shot that was a single sentence is now 4 sentences and has become a lot longer. You've added time into the animation. Whether that was, probably unintentional.
Yeah.
And so it's really in that moment, if you're having confusion and you need to change the script, at that point, it's probably better to do that when you get into the animatic stage.
Yeah.
If we're seeing changes to the script, we tend to say, okay, we might need to make an animatic stage at this moment so that you can see what the timing relationship is with the visual.
Yeah, and we covered animatics in another, I think we did it in a hack because it's so short. So go check that out. We totally explain animatics and what they are.
Yeah. So we're not saying don't make changes to your script because you actually can.
Yeah.
It's more just being conscious of when you're making those changes, remembering that it still changes and impacts the time.
It's how it changes the pace of the whole thing.
Yes, for sure. So definitely a good one.
So when you're in storyboards, leave the words alone. Write out the changes and then make those changes in the animatic.
Right.
Yeah. So last common problem here. The boards will sometimes get scrutinized to such a fine precision that they forget that it's all supposed to be in motion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, well, what about this really specific thing? Okay, well, you're not going to see that when it's moving.
Right.
Not really. Right. So the most important part of the stage is to remember that the storyboards are temporary. They're supposed to be let go. They're going to be abandoned at some point.
No.
Yeah. You got to let it go.
Why?
It's like Jack. You got to let him die. I'm sorry.
No, not Jack.
We're talking Titanic here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You must let go of what you're seeing on the page because when it's in motion, you might not see the same things. You're going to see an entirely different set of things when things are in motion.
Right.
So just keep that in mind. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a moving image is like 1 billion meanings, right? Like
that's interesting. So
remember that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for meaning and not necessarily words with the boards.
Sure. What would you say is like the meaning of life?
All right, we don't have to go that deep here.
What?
That's way too deep.
We can get there.
No.
We can get there.
No. 42. Isn't it 42?
That's true. It is 42. You're right.
That's
You win.
What's
the prize?
That's
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes.
If you don't know it, go watch it.
Or look it up.
Or read it. Just go Google it, children. All right. So I
don't think we're targeting children with this podcast. I
don't know how many children.
In any way, shape, or form.
You never know.
I'd be shocked. If you are a small child, leave a comment.
No. We don't know. Don't invite children to engage.
We're editing all of that out. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
In summary, so hopefully this episode gave you some good working tips, tricks, opened up some doors in your mind around how to give feedback and reviews. So, storyboards, they're a blueprint for your animation. So treat them as such.
Yes.
When we're reviewing, try to get every stakeholder, every person who's involved, everyone who needs to see it on board and seeing it to avoid the painful scope change in the future.
Right.
Which could be costly, by the way.
I want to just make a very quick note that by stakeholders, right? I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. It's not somebody who holds stakes.
No, it's like Gordon Ramsay who cooks the steak, and when he's holding it, that's when he becomes a stakeholder.
That's exactly. I wasn't trying to go. Yeah. So
I'm trying really hard not to laugh here.
Well, you can embrace it. It's funny. Another thing that you should do is talk with your creative teams about what feedback is helpful for them at this particular stage.
Yes.
Right? And every stage. But
lastly, enjoy the process.
Yeah.
This is really where it starts coming together. This is where things start to coalesce, and that's really where things start to jive.
We've definitely heard multiple times clients say like, "Oh, this is exciting." Like to be able to see everything together laid out in a way that's like, "Oh, this is really starting to come to life."
I do want to caution, don't skip the stages in between, because sometimes we get a script and they're like, yeah, just move into storyboards, because they want to get to that place because they know that that's the place where things can be hashed out. But you really want to set creative direction first.
We've definitely mentioned not to skip steps. Yeah.
So anyway.
But yes.
Again, if you have questions, openpixelstudios.com/podquestion.
So this week, unfortunately, because we've screwed up our number system on our episode labeling so poorly,
we don't know what the next episode is going to be.
We do know that there will be an episode.
There's absolutely a next episode.
That's something to look forward to.
We just can't do the tease because we don't know what it is.
Right. So stay tuned next week for that one.
It's going to be a great episode. I'm so excited for that episode.
We have in our notes here that it should be a, quote, hacky, sacky, sack kicker.
So that's a reference to Animaniacs. We just finished a project where I, as a creative director, went into Animaniacs. I started watching more Animaniacs episodes. And there's an episode where it's all tongue twisters. It's so good.
Yes.
And Hacky Sack Sack Kickers was the product that they made.
Sure.
It's so good.
I believe it. That's great.
A big thank you to EMedia for producing this podcast. Our producer is Jackson Foote. And our music was created by Hidden and licensed through premiumbeat.com. Until next time, stay honest.
Stay creative.
Stay open.
Nice.
Open Pixel Studios. Thank you so much for listening. If you're an audio listener, stick around for a bad idea. And we will see you in that amazing next episode.
Whatever it might be.
Whatever it is.
The world is your oyster. I couldn't pivot from oyster, because people say that, right? The world is your oyster. That's a phrase. Google it.
I don't think anyone has said that.
I'm Googling it. YOLO.